Salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Okay, the changes or additions to the agenda. Okay, no changes or additions. As I would consider a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please signify by saying no. Okay, consent agenda passes. Let's move on to swearing in of our two directors. Gary, the stage is yours.
All right, Rhonda and Ashley, if I could have you both stand up, we're going to do this together. And when I start off as I state your name, go ahead and state your name.
Okay.
So if I could get you to raise your right hand, please. I state your name.
I, Rhonda Litzenberger,
Do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and the Constitution of the State of Washington,
and will willfully discharge the duties,
and will willfully discharge the duties.
excuse me, I will faithfully discharge the duties
I will faithfully discharge the duties
of Director of Eatonville District 404,
of Director of Eatonville School District 404,
Pierce County, State of Washington,
Pierce County, State of Washington,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my abilities.
Congratulations.
All right, congratulations. Now you can take your seat.
Now you take a seat.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Matt, for getting a picture. I was going to take a picture and I realized I had to.
Sophie.
Appreciate that. Take a picture. We always need pictures of our new board members.
Yes.
Oh, okay, we'll move on to reorganization of the board. So at this point, we will elect new board officer positions. So I would accept nominations for board chair this time.
Nominate Jeff Lucas, the board chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second. Any other nominations? Okay. Oh, sorry. Matt Marshall made a motion to appoint Director Lucas as board chair, and Director Litzenberger seconds that motion. There are no more nominations, so I need a motion to close nominations for board chair.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, motion passes.
We don't have to switch seats or anything, so you get to go on right to the next.
I know it's okay.
Guys.
Okay, so now we move to the recording secretary to take a roll call vote for the position of board chair.
Okay, Paulette Gilliardi,
Vote yes.
Rhonda Litzenberger,
Yes.
Matt Marshall,
Yes.
and Ashley Silva. Yes.
Okay. So we don't have to do anything.
Don't have to do anything.
Thank you all. I appreciate the vote of confidence. And I'll continue to put the hours in the hours. of each
Sorry.
day.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've got the time, so we're here to support the whole board and whatever we need. So thank you. I would now accept nominations for the position of assistant chair.
Nominate Paulette Gilliardi.
I second.
All right.
Good
So
job.
Director Marshall nominates Director Gilliardi. Director Silva seconds. Any further nominations for assistant chair? Right, seeing and hearing none. Recording secretary, conduct a roll call vote, please.
Absolutely. Jeff Lucas,
Yay.
Rhonda Litzenberger,
Yes.
Matt Marshall,
Yes.
Ashley Silva. Yes.
All right. Mrs. Gilliardi, congratulations.
Thank you. I like helping keep you in line.
And I appreciate that. We all do.
We work well together.
Very good. Okay, and this year you are not up, right? Are we in the first year of your lead
Yeah.
trip?
We just did that.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That is
Got
an
another
even
year.
year thing.
It's
So
every other year, where
Yeah.
this one's every year.
This is every year.
Yeah.
I'm, yes.
Yeah, next year.
Can't keep Wazda in this street, so I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'll trust you.
Well, that won't always get you far. But, okay, so I think we're done with reorganization. We don't need to take a break to move chairs and nameplates and all that. So unless anybody feels the need to take a recess already, we'll soldier on and come to hearings of individuals and groups tonight.
Don't believe we had anybody sign up.
Okay.
I can go peek outside though, just to make sure we don't have anybody standing outside.
There were parking spots, so I doubt there's anybody.
I don't believe so. I don't have anybody sign up, so
Oh, front door's
I feel like we are good.
Yeah, the
Okay.
front door is open. I got in.
Okay, so we will move on to the enrollment report by Krista.
So for the month of November, we are, let's see, we are at an 1,844.9 FTE, which brings us down by about 4 kiddos, 4 FTEs since the start of the school year. So I am working on some supplemental enrollment reports for you, and should have those by the next board meeting, just some additional data for you guys to review and for all of us to kind of see where we are at historically. I think it would help all of us. So that's where we're at on that, just about four kiddos down, not too much. And that's it on, are there any questions on the enrollment?
Not for myself.
Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to the financial report.
And so budget status, we've got nothing really unexpected. It's just an even pace on where we were normally at for this time of the year. So nothing out of the ordinary, just a debt service payment coming up here next month, but that's about it. Nothing out of the ordinary.
Very good. Any questions, comments?
For Ashley's benefit,
Yeah.
and we'll go over this in more depth and detail, but you talked about a debt service payment coming up. Can you share with us what that's for?
Yeah, so we put out for some bonds several years back before I was here to renovate the elementaries and the high school, if I remember correctly. So with that, we're continuing to pay that off with bonds. So every December we have a principal payment due along with an interest payment due. And then June we have a big interest payment due. So twice annually we have 2 big payments due, which just come out of our debt service fund. So that'll probably be, let's see, about your third page in the debt service fund. So we'll continue on paying on that for quite a number of years yet.
And we've refinanced that a couple of times to save our local taxpayers money, so.
Yeah.
Quite a bit. I
Okay.
don't remember the
Saved a
exact
lot.
figure, but it was quite a
I
bit.
believe it
Several
was
million.
$8 million.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Several
Like,
million dollars. Yep,
It
so
was a lot.
we've definitely been working hard at trying to get that down.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much for.
Yeah.
Okay, so Krista Heritzink will then go over the end of the 2021 school
Well,
year.
this was kind of fun. This was my first go around at this. But of course I've done most of it alongside the previous business manager. So a lot of it was pretty straightforward for me. So, but it is kind of fun to look at some of these things. If we could go to slide 2. So,
Very colorful, by the way.
I may have borrowed it, just changed it a little bit. Tyler, do you want to go ahead and switch it to slide 2? Thank you. Okay, so last year we were actually budgeted at 1,948 FTE. As you know, last year was not a normal year, and we ended up with significantly less at 1,801. So definitely safe to say one of our largest drops in history. Hopefully we never see that again. But compared to the previous year, the biggest drop that we saw was actually at the elementary level. A lot of that was due to Kindergarten, I think a lot of parents held their kinders back to see what was happening and if they could, to the next year. So that was the bulk of that. The next was middle school and not too much in the high school. So,
I think that 1% at the high school enrollment really speaks to how important the socialization of students is for them. So I know that shows that they needed to be there.
yeah. Okay. So next slides are an enrollment history. This just gives you a broad view picture of our enrollment full-time equivalents. And shows you where we were and from 16-17 that we took a dip and went back up and then took a huge dip in 2021. So you'll see later that we've actually rebounded quite beautifully this year, so which is really exciting. So next, let's see. So this is just kind of a summary of where we ended at in the general fund. So the general fund can only be used for educational purposes. It's typically not used for huge improvements, debt service, buses. It's just intended for education purposes. So general fund, we kind of, with COVID hitting, we kind of took a step back and said we've got to be careful here, because in 3 to 4 years, the after effects of COVID are going to catch up with us, as history has shown. And when the state has to cut budgets, that's not necessarily going to be in year 1 or year 2 of the pandemic, but we're really going to feel the aftershocks in years 3 and 4. And that's just kind of a consensus that I'm hearing from the business community and across districts, that they're going off history and previous financial crisis, and you do tend to suffer those ramifications later on in the 3rd and 4th year. So we just kind of took a look at where we were at and said we need to prepare for that, because in all likelihood there will be cuts, and education is usually one of the first that we see that in. So luckily we have been able to save enough to build for that and prepare for that if it happens. And hopefully it won't, but that's kind of what we're expecting now at this point.
Can I ask you a quick question, Krista? You said we're looking at ramifications in 3rd and 4th year. Is this considered the 2nd year?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I didn't know when you were gonna.
Yeah, and it's hard to say that. I mean, it's really a guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't know where we were on that timeline. So thank you.
Yeah. So we ended up with, as you'll see in the next slide, that we've slowly built our fund balance up in preparation. But we did end with a nice healthy 5 million fund balance. Within that, it's broken down into different buckets. So some of it is restricted for programs specifically that were given to us for specific programs, so we have to hold them for those specific programs. So such as bilingual education, highly capable career CTE programs. So the state gives us money for those programs, and we're expected to spend that money on those programs. So that's what's in that restricted carryover. The inventory and prepaids, we've been on a cycle of prepayment for some of the first, like our insurance, the inventory. Sometimes that will include like what's left over in food service commodities and those types of things. So the assigned contingencies, that was the COVID stabilization funds that you directed to set aside for that 3rd and 4th year to help with our staffing. And then the other purposes, that was what you had set aside for the EMS the Eatonville Middle School Staffing Stabilization to help get their CTE program up and running and engage those students. Get them more engaged after the pandemic. So find ways to re-engage them and help close those learning gaps for them. So, and then lastly, the unassigned minimum fund balance, that's where that 10 to 15% policy comes in. We're a little bit shy on that, but that's because the money was, you wanted to reallocate the money for those contingencies and other purposes.
And just for the record and for public awareness, and
Yeah.
maybe perhaps for Ashley, you'll note that the unassigned minimum fund balance is $2,034,000, and our payroll is at $1,933,000. And then if you add in our monthly obligations, we really have 1 month set aside. So it's not an extravagant amount. It's something we need to work really hard and be very diligent, because last year or the year before, COVID has made it a weird time warp for me. We did not receive our apportionment. We did not receive our money from the government. And had we not had that reserve, we would not have been able to pay any of our employees. So that's us being financially responsible to make sure that if something bad happens, we have the money to pay our employees for the work that they've done.
And there were a couple districts that I heard about that was, they were in that position and they actually had to borrow money from their county, which is not a position you want to be in, because then you're being controlled by the ESDs. You're not, you lose that local control.
Right.
So that's not a position we want to be in. And next slide, Tyler. And so this is just an illustration of where we've come from and where we are now. We've certainly, we've just slowly, it's taken a lot of work and a lot of watching our pennies, and but we've slowly grown that fund balance to where we need to be. So it's just neat to see that historical data, because when I first came here back in 16, 17, we were actually in that danger zone where we didn't have enough to cover payroll. So we're back up to where we need to be. Next slide. So this is just a broad overview of our revenue sources compared to actual versus budgeted. So we were pretty much in line with what we thought we were going to get, just a little bit ahead. So in all the categories, in state, federal, and our local revenues. So that's always a good thing to have. And if we could look, let's see, revenues by source. So we had our normal revenue streams, but then we also had a few other oddball items that were kind of handy. So enrollment stabilization, we obviously needed that because we, as you saw from a previous slide, we lost so many students. So that really helped to allow us to continue running our programs the way that we all want to see them go. Same thing with transportation. With the ridership down, we really needed that hold harmless, because it's, even with the hold harmless, transportation is still upside down. So just every year, that's how transportation ends up. We ended up with a lot of COVID grants, whether they were, well, most of them were from the federal government and flowed through county, state. And then we ended up with almost $750,000 in various education grants. Most of those are pretty competitive. So we put in a lot of work to get those grants. So
And those are grants that we have to apply for.
we have to apply for those. Yeah, and most of them are pretty competitive.
Mhm.
So it's always really exciting when we can get those kinds of things. They certainly help. Food service grants, we actually ended up getting a new freezer at Warehouser. So that was really nifty.
Mhm.
Can hold more food so we don't have to order quite as often, to help reduce our costs a little bit. And on to expenditures. Okay. So we did, so our budgeted expenditures were just over 28 million. Our actual were 26.3 million. And we did, a lot of our expenditures were due to COVID. Our expenses were a little bit different this last year. They just, from everything, it was just a different mix of purchases. But there again, we were able to secure some grant funding. Some of it we got automatically, some of it we had to apply for. And so those helped to offset a lot of those costs. We also got some donated personal protective equipment from Pierce County. So that was in about $300,000 worth. So that we didn't have to pay for. Yeah.
That's a lot of masks.
So, and then, you know, there's other costs that we just can't really measure. You can't, and it's all of those extra things that our staff did that, you know, with the COVID tracing and the schedule changes and the constant route fluctuations. And we had, you know, extra hours here and there and different, it just a lot of different costs that we just, you can't really measure.
Right.
All of our staff had just really gone above and beyond their basic job duties this last year and continue on to this year. Okay, let's take a look at the expenditures by object. This one's kind of a fun one. So everything in blue is payroll. So where most companies, you don't have all of that in payroll. With schools, you typically do have a bigger, you know, the majority of your expenses are in salary for certificated, our teachers, and salary for classified, transportation, food service, and then benefits. Benefits have kind of slowly been creeping up there, so that's taken up a bigger piece of the pie. And supplies, not quite as much as you would think, but purchase services certainly a big chunk. A lot of those are the services for special ed that we pay for, those outside services and contracted services for language therapists and those types of services. So, and very little in capital outlay. So, because again, most of that comes out of capital project fund. Any questions or comments? Okay, let's go on to expenditures by program. So the bulk of our costs go into just general basic ed. Let's see. So we've got basic ed. Let's see if I can make this all bigger. Special education is in orange there, so that takes up a pretty big chunk. Support services in green, that's everything transportation, business office, technology, food service, maintenance and operations, just all of those necessary support services. Let's see. So, and the rest of them are quite small, but equally as important.
Can you give me an example of community services?
So community services is generally, it's pretty much all of the pool and preschool.
Okay.
And that's pretty much all that's in there.
Okay. Thank you.
So that's really grown a lot with preschool. So we've had a lot of success with that and added a lot of new kids. So over the last several years. So, so that's part of that. Okay, next slide, Tyler. So just, not that we all need a reminder where we were at, because we all know where we were at with the pandemic, but again, most of the year was spent with changing schedules, hybrid schedules, at-home learning. We did one of the state's first COVID clinics. And we ended the year, the high school was never fully in person. So this was a funny year.
But we were Way ahead of every
We-
other
we
district.
Yes, we were.
Way ahead of every district.
We have more kids in the school than any other district that I have.
And we were the first ones back. Okay, so let's take a look at our other funds here. Capital projects, so the revenue so capital projects, you can only use for, those major improvements to our buildings and land. So our buildings, farm, grant, any major improvement. So last year, we had some capital expenditures for Chromebooks, devices to help support our one-to-one initiative. With that came some stresses on our system, on our network. So we had some upgrades, some firewall upgrades. We added some smart TVs in the classroom to help with the distant learning. We also did a phone upgrade to help adapt to the learning and communicating with parents. It allows our staff to communicate with parents without identifying their personal information. It also allows us to communicate with parents in text without identifying, because some parents will only communicate with text. We also began the first phase of adding additional classroom space out at Weyerhaeuser, or modifying the classroom space out at Weyerhaeuser. For the preschool students, we're adding a bathroom. So it's really important to have a bathroom for our preschool students out there.
And that's they're in a portable, and so you're adding a portable bathroom.
We have a portable out there. We're converting it from a dry portable to a wet portable.
Okay.
So they can have a restroom out there. So revenue is real restricted to capital projects. It's strictly from our capital levy. Impact fees, which we're now collecting from outlying Pierce County. We are not collecting them from in the town. It's just outlying Pierce County. And then a little bit of interest every month on investments. So, any questions on capital projects? And our debt service fund, again, was for the renovations at the elementaries and the high school years ago. So we're still paying on that. So the only expenditures there are the principal and interest twice annually. Our revenues are from local property taxes, a little bit of timber excise tax, and a little bit of interest on investments.
How much do you know off the top of your head, how much we get in timber tax?
It varies from year to year. I want to say last year was like right around between 60 and 90,000. So it really varies. Yeah. And on to ASB. So this is kind of an interesting one. I did not expect this, but you'll notice that in 1920, their revenues and expenditures were twice as much as they were last year. So what that tells me is they're not doing as many fundraisers, and they're not doing as many activities. They were doing half as much as what they normally did. So I thought that was very eye-opening.
And this is strictly from what they do with fundraisers.
Fundraisers, they get a little donations here and there. But
I mean, that's
fundraisers,
basically it.
gate receipts,
Yes, okay.
those sorts of things. Yeah. So, so the AFB fund balance. So Eatonville High School always has the bulk of that fund balance, of course, because they generate and spend the most revenue. And the middle school and Columbia Crest. So, and that's about where they end from year to year. And on to transportation vehicle fund. This fund can only be used for the purchase of buses. It is strictly for buses. We get bus depreciation once a year in August for the aging of our buses. This last year, we got a Department of Ecology grant, so that was kind of fun, to help pay for our buses. So we had to destroy the cores in a couple of them, and once we proved that we destroyed the cores in those, then they reimbursed us and $105,000. So let's see here. And the final slide, I'll look a little bit into the future here. There's where it's showing that we are rebounding. So we've gone from a 1731 FTE back up to an 1849. So we've rebounded in quite a significant way there.
Yep.
So
Good.
good news. So, yeah. That's where we're at.
Okay, thank you, Krista.
Yeah.
Outstanding first year-end report.
Oh, it was fun. It was great.
It's a lot better PowerPoint than Kim used to do.
No, I don't know about that. You better be careful because she might be listening.
Pretty bad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions or comments or anything?
No, just thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you,
did a
Krista.
great job. And thanks.
And I just want to invite you, Ashley, if you want to sit down and go over any financial data, sure, piece by piece or all of it, I would be more than happy to do that with you. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to unfinished business. And we just want to solidify our board calendar for next year. According to Board Policy 1400, regular meetings are the fourth Wednesday of every month, except for the 5 meetings at each school. Those are on the second Wednesday of the month. So we've been talking about not doing the school meetings again this year because of the meeting constrictions we're still under. So I think if we can reach a consensus on that, that we're not going to go to the schools and put that burden on them. And then another thing Gary brought up, talking about scheduling a work study before each meeting at 6 o'clock, just so it's there scheduled if we need it. In the past, we've kind of thrown them in as needed. This way, I mean, it's there, it's on the calendar, we can plan on it. If we don't need it, which we probably won't for most of them, just cancel it. So what's everybody's thoughts on these things?
Did anybody else have something first they wanted to? So I love going to the building.
Mhm.
I understand why we can't. However, I would still love to have a presentation by their principal, just because I like to hear the great things that are going on. And did I miss the SIP plan meeting where the school improvement plans, or have we done that? Is that are we going to do that?
No, that did not happen.
Okay, I would
this
love to
last
know,
year.
is that's part of they're still doing them, right? Okay, so all we need to, basically, I like that because we know as a board what we need to do to support their goals for the year. And so I would love to, even if it's part of their building presentation, I think that would be fantastic.
I
Yeah,
think
so
it should be part of it.
what we used to do, Gary, was have a round robin in here. Each school would sit at the table and we would rotate around and get the school improvement plan one-on-one with the principal. So we obviously can't have that many people in here anymore. So we're gonna need to.
Like, I've met Tim twice. Or
Yeah.
whatever. I feel really bad about that. So I would love to
Yeah, so we
just
need to
build those relationships.
either do it virtually or come up with a different format to do that. So yeah,
Yeah,
good
I
point.
think it's super important that we are not in the buildings if we're not
In
supposed to
touch
be
with the
there. In touch
buildings.
with the
Mhm.
buildings, yeah. We need to know what's going on with our kids and our communities as leaders.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Yeah, and generally, just like when we go to the buildings, it's anything that they want to report and then their improvement plan.
Were you gonna say something, Gary?
Yeah, just a point of clarification. Because my first thought was, well, if we do one a month, but only you have one meeting a month, so you might not get to the last one to the end of the school year. So we probably just get back to that, have them just one at a time during one meeting, or maybe 2 of them at one meeting
Sure.
and the other 3 at another meeting. So we get them
Yeah.
earlier, not later in the year.
So are we going down to one meeting a month?
Yeah.
Because we had one meeting and during the holidays and busy times and two meetings the
Yeah,
rest of the time.
I don't really know where we ended up scheduling
Two.
2 meetings every month because it's not how it's supposed to be scheduled in board policy.
We did it for, yeah, we just did it
Yeah,
for
it just-
years because there
just
was
kinda
so
happened,
much,
yeah.
there was so much to cover. So I just want to clarify. So we're having
Yeah.
one meeting a month.
That's, yeah, according to policy 1400, fourth Wednesday of each month at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Any thoughts, Matt, or? Good.
Good.
Ashley?
I'm
I
here to
know-
learn.
I know this is great. You sound off on these things we've been talking about for months, and you've been in your chair for 30 minutes, so. Okay, so can we say we've got consensus then on moving ahead with that scheduling?
Yep.
We won't go to the schools, and we'll work them in one or two at a time.
Sounds good.
Okay,
And if we need a work study, it will happen before our regular meeting. Okay. Then I would suggest we take full advantage of those work studies because I feel like there's times when we, COVID aside, those have been really beneficial, I think, especially with new board members.
Mhm.
Also, would you recognize,
sure.
if you do those work studies, would you please publicly announce them because they are technically a board meeting?
Yeah, they will be
Advertised.
advertised,
Yeah.
yep.
Mhm.
And if they're canceled, that notification will also go out
Thank
beforehand. Yeah, okay, any other comments? Okay, let's move on to new business. And we'll hear from Kristen Blaskowitz about the annual HICAP report.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me?
We got
Yep,
you.
we got you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome, Ashley, to the board. So I believe you guys all have the annual I-grant in front of you. So that's the I-grant that OSPI has already approved. Everything's been approved in it. The last piece is, this is nothing new. It's just so we can get our money for the school year so that the HICAP kids can spend it and do their programming.
So, Kristen, this is Rhonda.
Hey.
I sent you an email, but I sent it after hours, probably at 4:45.
Oh, yeah, I probably didn't get it. I haven't been on email.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to because you shouldn't be working then. But if you could just send me, it mentions in the I-grant that we have district goals for the year and that those were set in October of 2021. So if I could just get a copy of the HICAP goals for the year.
So the goals are in our, we don't change our goals. The goals are in the HICAP policy.
Okay.
Let's see if I can find it real quick. Hold on, give me a sec.
I have the policy. It just said they were updated on October 2021. So I thought maybe they had changed.
Nope, we don't update them. We just review them every year.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
Yep, so that's pretty much it. We just kind of stick with the goals that are set forth in the policy and by the state, so.
Okay, Kristen, I have a question for you. We're eligible to be funded for up to 5% of our student population. Where are we on that? Do we have enough kids to max out that funding enrolled in HICAP?
So we never get enough funding to do what we need to do for HICAP, just so you know that. Basically everything we have pays for the teacher and then the field trip experiences and then supplies. Our HICAP numbers are pretty low. We're about 1% in our district. That's pretty average with the amount of students we have. We screen all kids 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And then any stragglers that are new to the district. So everybody gets screened. And then we screen, the 3 times a year academically, we look at all the data. We just aren't seeing the kids that meet the, criteria to be highly capable. We have tons of kids that are high achievers And that's a little bit different than being a true highly capable student. So yeah, I mean, Krista, do we even get 5%? I don't even think that amount they give us is 5%.
I have not looked at that figure.
Yeah, I mean, for goodness sake, they finally gave us a bump. You know, for a long time, we were only getting like 15,000. I'm like, okay, what are we going to do with that? You know, so now I think we're up to about 40 or something like that. I haven't, specifically looked at it lately.
So I have a question around that. Is it a flat fee or based on FTE?
It has nothing to do with the number of kids that test into highly capable. It's based on a percentage of our total enrollment. So I now that our enrollment was down last year, I don't know. I honestly haven't paid that close attention, the difference between last year's allocation and this year's.
So here's my question. If we have empty seats in a classroom, is it possible to take some of those high achieving kids and put those into the program?
No, because that's not how our program is set up. So our program that is the pullout service is for our true highly capable kids for enrichment activities. The day-to-day highly capable program happens in all the buildings every day. So kids are walking up to different grade levels, they're being challenged in their classrooms, that kind of stuff. So that happens every day. The pullout once a month or twice a month program is really enrichment for those parents that actually sign up for the program that have tested in.
Okay, and then another follow-up question, a follow-up from a previous conversation we had. There have been a couple of families that reached out to me, and I don't know if they reached out to you, Paulette, that were part of our district, homeschooled during COVID, came back to our district, and wanted their students to be tested into the highly capable program and hadn't had the opportunity to do that yet. Is that something that is calendared for those families?
Yeah, we test the same time every year. We screen, we'll be screening, John and I met today. We screen in January, all those kids, and then open enrollment for testing always happens the 1st of February. Happens the same time every year.
And this year, it looks like we're set to be funded right about $52,000. Last year was 50,000.
That's interesting that it went up when our enrollment was so low last year.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah.
There was
I
legislation
was gonna
passed.
say,
There was a bump.
A lot of that funding was frozen to the year prior.
Exactly.
They
So
also gave us an increase
Right.
in that this last legislative session. I'm just curious, how can we better serve our families and students? I think that the daily stuff that's going on in the classroom, we have our acceleration policy
Mhm.
that says that every student, whether they're highly capable or high achieving or whatever, deserves the opportunity to excel. And so moving from class to class, I think that that's fantastic. How can we continue to serve all of our families? Is this a board issue, a board policy issue? Is it a state issue? Because if we have the opportunity or room, we have capacity, I feel like we should serve as many students as possible.
I guess I'm not understanding. We are serving all the kids that actually qualify.
Right, but if we still have room,
We don't have room.
we have no more capacity for any more
No.
students.
I mean, no. Unless you want to go into the fund balance, do you know what I mean? So it's an equity issue. It's kind of like you're not going to put kids in special ed that don't qualify for special ed. It's the same thing. You're not going to put kids in highly capable programs that don't qualify for highly capable programs. I think, it's a building by building decision on how they want to serve those high achieving kids. I think our buildings are doing a great job. We're really limited right now due to COVID restrictions to do some of the stuff we used to do before we couldn't move. We can't be really doing a lot of cross going into other classrooms, and we're doing the best we can right now with COVID. can I say we were doing a better job before COVID? Absolutely, because we had the freedom to do a little bit more. I haven't heard from any parents that they don't feel like we're serving their kids. On the contrary, I've heard great things from parents on highly capable. So I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Well, it seems like there are a lot of parents who haven't had the opportunity to have their child tested. I don't know. I'm just wondering, I guess my thought process was, if we have a teacher and that teacher has capacity to take more students, then, why wouldn't we fill those seats to capacity if we can? And if you're saying we can't, my question was, is that a board issue or is that a state issue? Like, do we have the ability as a board to say, we have 4 more seats in this elementary opportunity, let's fill those seats? Or is the state?
How do you choose those kids that get to put in those seats? That's the whole process of being identified.
I'll step in. This could be a communication issue because
Yeah.
I also know that, to my knowledge, none of my kids have ever been tested for it.
So
Are the parents being notified if it's happening?
yep. So it goes out in every building newsletter. I've actually seen it already in some of them. And then we post on the district website too. So, and then student and teachers refer. We have kids, like we had middle school kids self-refer themselves to be tested. They can do that too. The biggest bulk of our highly capable kids are at Eatonville Middle School. And we've had a lot of kids opt out this year because they don't want to leave the school, because they don't want to miss what's going on in their classrooms too. So I'm not sure how else we let teachers know at every staff meeting. They can refer kids. Here's the open enrollment to do that. So if parents are missing it, I'm trying to figure out how else we can get the word out.
So and I guess this is a big part of it, us talking about it right here.
Sure.
That's coming up right now in January. So parents need to be aware that
It opens February 1st.
February 1st. Okay.
Yep. And it's an online form, and all they do is they click on the form and it sends John an email saying they want their kids tested.
Fantastic. Great.
So, but like I said, we screen every 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grader. So every kid gets screened. And that happens in January before the open enrollment starts. And we get that data back and share that with parents to let them know, yes, your child is a candidate for highly capable testing.
Right on. And on just a quick read of the RCW, each district has quite a bit of latitude in how they design their high cap program. So that is something we can look at as a board, and because we haven't looked at that in a long time. Yeah. So.
And I know we're supposed to allow multiple screeners. So that initial test is one way, and then teacher recommendation is another way, and self-referral is another. And then those should all be looked at. And so not just that one test cannot by law cannot eliminate a student. So I think that I think that would be a great work study topic for us to learn more about. So.
Well, and John can come, we give 4 different tests for the highly capable program. So it's not just one test that gets them in.
Oh, fantastic.
So it's all in that plan that's in front of you guys, all the screeners and everything we use. So everything's in there. So, and everything has been vetted by OSPI. It's not like we're out there just doing random testing. Everything has to be vetted by them. So.
Okay.
Great. Thank
Any
you.
other comments or questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen.
Hi, guys. If I don't see you, happy holidays.
Yes, you too.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to, let's see, we got a bunch of policies here.
They're all first reading.
Yeah. So let's just
I
take them
agree.
one at a time, I think, for first reading. So new policy 1815, ethical conduct for school directors. This is a new addition, and it is.
I don't have that one for me.
Well, the only thing, I mean, it's pretty
Is that the
vanilla.
one in the draft talking about
Yeah, so
censorship
use
or
your,
racist things? Don't take the cell phone and record an executive session. Yeah,
well,
all
and
the things
it's,
we know.
yeah, don't use your board for personal gain.
Financial
and
gain,
Things
yeah.
like that, yeah. The only thing I really saw in it is to remove, there's a reference to policy 1220, because we don't have that policy, so that can get pulled out of there. Other than that, like I said, it's pretty vanilla, straightforward thing, so let's just take a look at that, and we'll look at it again. Next meeting, because I didn't see anything that was.
Did you want to say something?
Okay, so we'll push that, and then new policy 1825 addresses school director violations, and this just kind of something else we don't have, puts in place a process of discipline, if you will, progressive discipline, pretty much. So we'll talk to you in private, talk to you in public, then move to censure, and it just lays that out. It's like 2 paragraphs long. And again, pretty standard vanilla stuff. I found nothing. Anybody have anything you want to add or? Okay.
And these more WASDA.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's discretionary, it's not a
Yeah,
mandate,
it's not
mandatory.
part of the law or anything.
Is that something we can do when we actually put these new ones on here too? Just have it kind of bracketed out when
Yes,
they're like.
my
mandated?
apologies, that was
Yeah.
a little miscommunication. Debbie did tell me today, we were
Yeah.
talking about it. She says, normally I do put, this is a WASDA policy. So,
Right.
yes,
Well, then whether or
we
not
made
they're-
notes for next time.
Whether they're
Thank
like
you.
mandatory, required.
Right, and it
Right.
does say at the end of each.
At
them,
the
it
end of
says-
the page, yeah, it says they're listed like optional, essential, required,
Discretionary.
yeah, discretionary.
There was one that didn't have it, I think it might be. Trying to get.
But yes, we're aware, thank you, we'll do better.
It's fun. We got a lot of new people doing new things,
Yeah.
We're doing well. Okay, so, come on, turn back on. There we go. Any other questions or comments about that one? Okay. So new policy 3411, accommodating students with seizure disorders. That one I've got a ton of questions about. There's lots of requirements in there. What I'd like to do is send that to our nurses, have them weigh in. I mean, there's a lot of requirements in there as far as designating somebody for certain roles, requiring training, but not explaining what that training is, who's going to provide it, how much it's going to cost. And I'm sure that all these mandates are not coming with a penny from the state.
Right.
It also mentions that there's going to have to be policy exceptions for some of these things, so that's going to need some clarification. Yeah, so just a lot of questions in there. We're going to need a lot of updating on that one. And I'd also like to know, Gary, if you would put in, I guess, to Heidi to begin with, because we don't have an official policy on this, but I'm sure she's got to have a medical procedure. I mean, we obviously have these kids, deal with them, we have plans.
See what her procedure
Yeah.
is. And that'd be helpful.
Because what we have right now may very well meet, as long as it meets the ADA, because even the RCW referenced in this policy is literally just to hold harmless. I mean, all it says is school personnel acting in good faith are safe from legal action. So it seems to me, as long as if we have a plan that's in a compliance with the ADA, we're good.
We
So
can make that our policy.
And we're open to litigation for not following our own policy if it doesn't follow through.
So any other questions or concerns on that one? Okay, policy 5004, infection control program. The only change to that is it strikes 4 words and adds 6 more. It just adds other follow-up treatment as required by law.
And then
So-
cites an expiring proclamation as law.
The-
Functionally, what's this gonna change on our current policy?
Nothing.
Nothing.
I think it's just literally changing the wording. It doesn't change the actions.
Well, because it says recommends.
Mhm.
There's no requires in this policy.
But it's immediately is leading into the next policy, which is recommending or requiring discharge of personnel.
The next
So,
policy, discretionary action and discharge.
So basically, I just see it, I'll keep my comments right now. I'll wait till this comes to more discussion and hopefully a public work study.
Well, we can certainly do that. My understanding here, reading it again,
It's basically aligning the vaccination policy and making it a permanent thing with immunizations in general, rather than just the COVID-19 vaccine. And as we are watching the current COVID vaccine not have as good of coverage as it did initially, and where there's talk of new boosters, I see this as talking into something that is going to be kind of compelling employees to continuously be jumping on over hoops, and we're going to be repetitively placed in the same situation we were months ago. And so I see this as a creep that if it's not required, I want nothing to do with it.
well,
So you're talking about, which policy are you talking about
The
right
next
now?
two,
Okay.
5,004
All
and
right, and it's
5281.
discretionary.
so 5004, all they've really done is change this language around blood or other potentially infectious materials exposure.
But their cited policy update is the governor's proclamation number COVID-19 vaccine requirement. That's the cited law that they're changing. So
Okay.
So they're doing it, yes, under the guise of if you get exposed to somebody's blood, but they're going to cite a policy we're talking about COVID-19 vaccine requirements.
Yeah.
So I see this as creep and I don't like it.
Oh, I see where you're.
All right.
So my question is, why did they change the policy number? Is that because it doesn't align with our policies? Why is their policy number change, strike out?
It came down from WASDA, that they were just removing it as 5,000 or 6512 and adding it to the 5,000 series instead. So I'm not sure exactly.
So it went to management support, and I wonder what the 6,500, does anybody off the top of their head, how good are you guys? I'm not that good.
6,000, I believe, is administrative policies.
65, so. Yeah, I'm glad this is a first read. I think I need to do some more.
Yeah, that's fine. We can delve deeper into that.
The 6512 is infection control. Infection control program.
Yeah, I mean, that's this policy just with a different number.
And the policy 5,000 is
5004, and the back one series.
What's the heading on the 5,000?
So the 5,000 series are,
Almost there.
I know it takes so much digging.
5,000 is personnel.
Personnel.
yes, we're
Okay,
taking
so-
a health exposure policy,
Right, and making it a personnel
policy.
management
So,
policy.
I mean,
Okay,
you can see that on the
Yeah.
source of the law other side.
okay.
I don't.
It's that foot in the door.
yeah, let me see. One more time. Yeah, and this is one that does not. Double check. Yeah, it has no label on it as far as required or.
That was the one. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
one that did not have.
So I can call Abigail in the morning too and
Right.
ask her
Not have
what's up here.
Yeah, there's something.
And I don't know if it's that we missed it or not, like I said, this comes from WASDA,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Right.
When you're talking to Abigail, would you also ask about, I think it's important since we are having the opportunity for exemptions, that needs to be stated in this policy. It's not stated anywhere in here
Right.
about religious exemptions or strong how does Rydell put it, strong personal beliefs, and
Yeah.
that's not addressed in this policy, and I think that we need to
Okay.
know if that needs to be addressed here, or if that needs to be addressed somewhere, or maybe perhaps it is somewhere else.
Also, everything else in this policy has a good citation to RCW or
Mhm.
federal law. And this one, this update is citing to an October 2021 policy issue
Yes. I noticed
without
that
a
too.
new citation to law.
Yeah, it's a WASD policy publication.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay, good enough. I'll bring that up. And she's been very good about taking calls. Back this morning, I called her about I think it was 5,400. And at the end of our phone call, she ended up pulling the policy update statewide. So, yeah, she's,
For your information, Abigail, when we talk about Abigail at
Was
WASD,
ask.
okay, she's the attorney that helps with policy around it, so it keeps us, in alignment with all state obligations.
Thank you for that, Rhonda.
yeah, it's Abigail Westbrook. She's the
Westbrook.
director of legal at WASDA. Yeah, and Ashley, if you have legal questions at any time, you can email her through her WASDA address, and she's really good about getting back and answering questions, so. Okay, and then, so we'll move on to 5281.
That's the other one I already talked
Yeah.
about.
Now, this one just adds a paragraph about dismissal of non-represented classified employees and administrators.
For not giving us proof
Mhm.
of vaccinations. Doesn't say what they are, but we all know which one we're talking about.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another thing that's just the mandate in the law.
Mhm.
Well, I think that that does raise a question, because the law states COVID. We
Mhm.
probably have, I would imagine, we have teachers, I don't know, that may have religious exemptions on other vaccines, so it doesn't specify that here, and so then, it takes a current practice and then changes it midway for some of our employees. I would want to know, again, that's maybe an Abigail question. What do we do around current employees who have religious exemptions if we do? It's not specifically stated in this, and I'd like to know how that's going
I
to
want to
impact.
see the rest of our vaccine policy for enrollment from DOH as well.
Yeah, and at the same time, it states that as an option. It also says the option to not use this
Right.
is entirely there. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of a two-way meaningless paragraph added in there. And all doesn't matter in the face of the mandate anyways.
Yeah. I'm just hesitate when there's already a law that's compelling us how to do something that we don't want to do and put in us positions we don't want to be in, having us then adopt it as our policy, so then we have to because of our own policy. So,
Okay, any other discussion on that? Okay, then we'll move on to 6225, use of electronic signatures. We are already doing this.
this one makes total sense.
Yeah,
It's the only one.
Although it almost states that we're doing it as a board, and that was my question. Is this a plan for us to be doing electronic signatures by the way we start signing these as board members, or is this just something that's going on at admin level?
Mostly at admin level.
Okay,
I said, good.
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is one of those that I'm surprised we don't have this policy already.
yeah, I was kind of surprised that
Yeah.
we've been doing it.
In this day and age,
So anybody have any problems with that? Any questions, concerns? We happy
I'm happy with that.
putting that one in the book?
We're happy with that one.
You good, Rhonda?
I'm good.
Okay. Then I would accept a motion to approve policy 6225 as presented.
Second.
Moving second. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing and hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed, please signify by saying no. Okay, policy 6225 is passed, and we'll go to Superintendent Neal's comments.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm going to start off with Columbia Crest. I'm going to go through the schools and kind of give you a report from them. And so our first picture here up on the screen illustrates Jeremiah Danielson a fourth grader who broke a school record recently, earning over 134 comprehension reading points in 1 quarter.
Wow.
His teacher made a trophy, and that's what Jeremiah's holding there. I don't know what the previous record was, but that sounds like a lot of comprehensive reading points in 1 quarter. And then, in an effort to make the holidays a little sweeter for those in need, the ASB at Columbia Crest is currently hosting a Brownie Mix Drive to support the Eatonville Family Agency. And the goal was to collect 250 brownie mixes by Friday, and we have already surpassed that goal and currently have 298 boxes.
Wow.
So nice job with their community service, and that's something I know that we all feel very strongly about, and it's important that we do this. And there's a little flavor of that throughout all of the schools here, but that was Columbia Crest. And next week they have 4 holiday spirit days, including the ever famous Pajama Day and Ugly Sweater Day. That's our report for Columbia Crest. Next is Eatonville L, and this is regarding the 3rd grade families. We don't have any pictures for them, but they have been working hard on the mini musical production of the Nutcracker Suite since last September, and are eager to share it with all the families and friends. Unfortunately, due to health restrictions, they can't do it in person, so they're going to do the next best thing, and they're going to record it.
Oh, cool.
And they will do the recording next Thursday, December 16th, during the school day. It was originally scheduled a little bit earlier, but they didn't get it quite finely tuned, so they're going to get this thing right. And they're very excited to get that thing ready and present it as a musical. The kids are excited, the teachers are excited, and I'm sure the families are excited as well. And then certainly the Eatonville Elementary also has spirit days and different types of things that they're wearing. Monday was Candy Care Day. Then we had Flannel Day. We had Winter Holiday Socks and Headgear. And then it's Holiday Tree Day on Thursday, and then the ever famous Pajama Day on Friday. Weyerhaeuser, and I want to make a statement here. I missed Weyerhaeuser's presentation at the last meeting. That was totally my mistake. Principal Ames had it ready for me, and that was an oversight, so I'm publicly apologizing for that. So they are also having a little competition and excitement amongst the staff, where they're trying to show some unity and support. So the staff has some dress-up days all week. So Monday was Motivation Shirt Day. Along with that, they did some staff cookie sharing throughout the lunches. Tuesday, they had the Christmas cards in the staff room. Wednesday was College Shirt Day, where they try to represent their colleges and universities. Thursday was Candy Cane Day. They're wearing red and white, and these are the adults, so they're trying to show some unity there. And then Friday is the Staff Shirt Day, and then preceded by some treats and snacks inside their staff room. And Eatonville Middle School, the girls basketball and co-ed wrestling has started. It's underway. Basketball's had 2 games, and wrestling's had 1 match. And then they were also had done many community service programs, and so I'm going to go through some of the things that they've done. Their leadership students have run a toy drive to benefit the Eatonville Family Agency. Had over 100 toys and items donated. That's a big deal.
Fantastic.
That's a big
That
deal.
is a big deal.
So that's 100 toys that are out there now for folks that wouldn't get them. So that's a kudos to them. By the same token, the leadership students have started a Cocoa for Coats program for next week, where the students donate a coat, clean, new, in the morning before school and receive a free cup of hot cocoa in return. So a nice little kudos to them for doing that. The coats will be donated to the Eatonville Family Agency. Then the Avid classes have organized a food drive, and that will also be going to the Eatonville Family Agency, and they will donate their items before the winter break. And lastly, for the middle school, they have their first band concert, and it'll be the first in live performance since 2019, and it'll be on the 15th at 7 p.m. And this event is by ticket only, so that seating can be arranged so they meet the proper social distancing. I should say physical distancing, not social, physical distancing. And Mr. Hunter has done an amazing job of coordinating all the extra details for this event, which something like this takes. And they're very excited about holding a live performance instead of a virtual one.
And will that be at the middle school?
That's at the middle school.
And if we want to get tickets, do we call the middle school or Mr. Hunter?
Yes.
Okay, we'll just reach out to him.
And then Eatonville High School is proud that Kevin Wolf was selected as the WIA Athlete of the Week last week. So good job, Kevin. The Key Club has adopted several families for the holidays and providing gifts, food, etc. to meet their needs. So once again, community service is a big deal. Blood Drive is tomorrow. And they will have their Winter Wishes Spirit Week next week, where they'll dress up during the days and at lunchtime activities, COVID friendly. And the ASB will be working to grant winter wishes that were submitted by the students.
Cool.
And that concludes my report. Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Neal. And we will move on to board comments. And Director Silva.
Hi.
You're first.
If you'd like to make any board comments, here's your chance. We'll let you lead off tonight.
Nope.
That works.
Just listening.
That works.
All right, then. Okay. We'll open the floor. Anybody else?
I'd like to say, I appreciated very much that Ashley was able to make it. I'm sad you weren't able to make it to the conference, but Ashley was able to take your place and be there and, you know, be involved in all of the different things that we learned and things that we did there. And appreciate you taking the time because it was very short notice and you had to jump right in there. And I appreciate it and look forward to getting to know you better and working with you.
It was fun. It was good. I was happy to meet, you know, one-on-one everybody. So I was blessed. Sorry, Matt. And thank you.
When doors shut, when doors
That's right.
I would like to welcome you, Ashley. Welcome to the board. We're grateful for your willingness to serve. And please feel free to ask questions because I know we all remember that there were just things we didn't understand, names, acronyms, all those things. Don't be afraid to ask. I want to thank Jeff for his leadership and tenacity and persistence and courage throughout all of this pandemic and also the great work that you do just as an individual human, but as a board chair, so grateful for your service and your willingness to step up again. And thank you very from the bottom of my heart.
No,
Really appreciate all you do. And then Paulette being that little angel on your shoulder. Sharing the
He doesn't
wisdom.
look at it that way.
she's a big angel with a stick.
With the big stick. Good. We'll keep her there. But thank you to Paulette for your leadership and for sharing your wisdom and your strength with our board. I'm just very, very grateful. Krista, thank you for your first report. It was fantastic and engaging and very pertinent information. I think you did a really good job of making it understandable so that you know the lay person could understand it. So thank you for the time and effort that you put into that. And thank you for these wonderful gifts. And welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Very excited to be here.
I can tell you're smiling even though you have a mask on, and I love it. You've got smiling eyes, and that is fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, that's I think all I had.
Okay.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, one legislative update. There are a couple of bills pre-filed that are talking about voluntary consolidation. We're hearing that maybe there's going to be additional consolidation conversations that may not be voluntary, but some of the, there's going to be some things, incentives to voluntarily consolidate, and those would be around capital funds. That's what I'm hearing kind of coming up. So just knowing that this is going to be something that once again is going to be on the plate and going to be conversations, and maybe requesting that we move forward as board members to testify, because we know how hard it is as a rural community if we were to be absorbed into a bigger district like Bethel, to have our student population represented and our community voice and our community value system would be really hard. And so just kind of putting that in your mind that there might be a clarion call, and those things come up like half an hour before. And so I'll be texting out and requesting, and as well as to the community, so that the community can voice their concerns if we have them. And I don't know it's just pre-filed. I haven't read the bill because we don't have access to it yet, but that's just one of those things that I'm gonna make sure.
Thank you.
That's how they pop up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's come up before. It just won't go away, will it? Somebody just wants to decrease the number of school districts in the state.
And at least if this one says voluntary for now.
Yeah.
Until,
You don't want to go
until
there.
there's an amendment.
It never ends well.
No.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Rhonda. Yeah, so I would just say, again, welcome, Ashley. Yeah, it's going to be a wild ride here for a few months. And I appreciate the work that everybody's doing. I mean, half the people around this table are really brand new in their jobs. So everybody's kind of figuring out how to make this work, and it is working. So thanks everybody. We're keeping the wheels turning with the loss of some really experienced people. So, and I thank each of you for, I don't know, I'd like to think it's your trust, what a great job I'm doing as president, or maybe it's just that I'm the only one dumb enough to keep doing it.
You run into fires every day for a living. So
Yeah, that's right.
Pretty good.
Right.
You can handle it.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, I'll keep putting in the hours and make sure that we all have what we need to do a good job. And Ashley, my phone's on 24 hours. The only time I won't answer it is if I'm at work on a call, pretty much. So,
Thank you.
all right. Well, if nobody has anything else, okay, let's adjourn this meeting at 8:17.
Ashley and Rhonda, I got things for you to sign.
Oh, awesome. And I
Swearing
finished,
in.
I handed it back. For onboarding, are we all good to cover